Okay. Good morning all. We are here to have a brief meeting with the jury of the Orizzonti competition of this year. We are very proud to have a brilliant and important jury, and I think we are all grateful to all of them for being with us this year. As you know, Orizzonti competition includes various formats: short film, medium film, and feature-length films, which are all designed to give audience, critics, and professionals an idea of what's going on in the new or less new forms of cinema, but what is out of any format, of any constraint regarding form. It's a reserve section, and the people we have here in the jury this year, as last year, are particularly curious, present on the field of what is more ahead in terms of formal research and attention of cinema to the world. So now, let me first introduce the table. I will finish with Mr. President. At my left, Italian editor, and friend of many film directors and great creative companion to many film directors, Jacopo Quadri. Next to Jacopo, French architect and designer Odile Decq, coming from French-speaking countries, if not for France, because she's an international career. At the very end of the table, Stuart Comer, coming from Great Britain, curator, working very famous for his programs at the Tate, very well-informed person regarding the new forms of cinema. And next to Stuart, Marianne Khoury, coming to us from Cairo, Egypt, producer, director, and a person who is one of the best allies of young filmmakers in her country and in the region. And at the center of the table, Mr. President, Jia Zhang-Ke, filmmaker and producer. Mr. President, do you want maybe to say a few words?
Good morning. I'm real happy to come back Venice as a jury member this year. It's my big honor to working together with Odile, Marianne, Jacopo, and Stuart. We were watching film in Orizzonti. I'm ready to hand this this touching film, and also we will find good movie in this program. I many thanks Mark Muller inviting me to this important job. My 6th film premiere in Venice. My 2 films, Dawn and Useless, were selected in Orizzonti. I love Venice. I love Orizzonti. Thank you.
The jury, I think, is open for all your questions and remarks, but maybe I would ask each and one of them to say a word about the feeling they have being here and the way they would enjoy, I hope, being with us. Would you like to start, Stuart?
Great honor to be here, and it's very exciting to be in a section where there are many different kinds of practitioners coming to make films, from artists to documentary filmmakers to filmmakers working in new forms, like documentary filmmakers making their first drama, for instance. So it seems like there is a lot of experimentation, which can only be a good thing.
Okay, I'll continue in English, I think. No, I feel extremely privileged to be here this year. I was here last year with my film, as Marie-Pierre said, but this year I feel it's an extreme privilege to watch 52 films in this section. there is a sense of freedom, there is a sense of complete liberty, because as Stuart said, you know, you could expect anything. I mean, all these genres, you know, mingled together. I think it gives extraordinary strength and freedom and hope for the future. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, it's really, I can say as the others that it's really a privilege to be here. And yeah, I have to say that if it's, it could be perceived as strange to have an architect in a jury for cinema. But if you think a little bit, space is both in cinema and in architecture. When we do architecture, we do some promenade, some traveling space. We think about the operation from the cinema to build and to conceive spaces. And it's the same when a filmmaker starts to think about the place where he plays his scene. It could the space has a very important role inside the movie. So we have connection, and I like to be at this time for transversal art in between architecture and cinema.
Italiano. Vabbè, anch'io sono orgoglioso di essere stato invitato. Sono venuto tantissime volte a Venezia. Il primo anno addirittura nel 1980.
The first year I was in Venice, it was 1980.
Cinefilo,
as a cinema lover, I was 16 or 17,
poi sono venuto tante volte
now and then I came here again with other films, but I was the editor of that films, and so I worked for that films, and so I hadn't the possibility to see other films, but the one I worked for. So now, after more than 30 years, it is very special to me to be here again and having the possibility to see and to watch other films and enter this sort of dream in which films, dreams are mixed, and films and dreams communicate, and so it is a sort of travel in the psychology, my psychology, and this is a very happy opportunity to me.
Once again, we are here, they are here to answer your questions and remarks. Maybe I could ask the president of the jury and his colleagues and friends to give a first point regarding what could be called today out of format, out of market. They all here present at this table know very well what it is not to be mainstream. To make films, to draw and make architecture for Odile, for example, as producers, directors, and even as curators and programmers, I feel, and editors, no? Do you feel that you have more creative space in that non-mainstream atmosphere or milieu, if we could say, or do you feel that at a certain point this non-mainstream has to be mixed with mainstream in order not to create new ghettos, right? So I would like just, maybe if you can give a comment on that. Would you start, Stuart, maybe?
Absolutely. I think maybe to follow up on what Odile said as well, I think it is in part a spatial issue. When cinema began over 100 years ago, there were thousands of ways to make a film, and during the 20th century that became very standardized. I think a lot of people now are rediscovering thousands of new ways to make films, and those aren't always shown in the cinema. Sometimes they're shown on the internet or on an iPhone, but there are just so many opportunities and options available now in terms of how you can make a moving image. And I think people are rediscovering some of the secret, more underground histories as well, and that's part of what all of us do, I think, is trying to bring those films that have been lost back into the light so that young filmmakers can be as inspired as we have been seeing them for the first time. But I think it will also create a generation that takes a lot more risks, and I think those risks will definitely be outside of the mainstream in the first instance.
我觉得就是，实际上现在是一个新的科技，它不断的在发展，然后各种各样的媒体在跟电影在争夺这个观众，或者说人类有更多的表现途径。但是这一次，我觉得只看了几天这个地平线的影片，我们会发现，电影仍然是一个能够寄托人类饱满的情感跟思考的一种媒介。这个媒介它仍然充满了它的活力，因为有更多的导演，不管什么年龄的，试图发现电影新的可能性。这种可能性的确是在地平线的我们看的这些片子里面能够感受到。所以我觉得我们其实仍然虽然处在一个有 Internet 有手机有微博这样的一个时代，但是电影仍然有很多未知的东西需要我们去继续寻找，因为电影还有非常多的可能性，从这些电影里我们就能感受到。
Concretamente è vero, ci sono nuove tecnologie, ci sono diverse media da cui possiamo attingere, però
which we
vedo
can
che
have ideas, but I can see that in these days, giving a general look to all the films that we watched, we saw how even if there is a great panel of new technologies, the cinema has the most powerful power to express all the things that are new and hidden, even if we are in the era of the iPhone and the internet, we have new possibilities.
我觉得很多新的科技，它是观看的方法是在分众，就是大家一个人在家或者一个人可以看，但是其实我们仍然需要电影院，需要电影是因为它是一个聚众，大家聚合在一起，在一个房间里500个人、300个人一起来面对一个共同的电影，来面对人类共同的处境，然后来相互交流。我觉得这样的一种交流方法，它是不过时的，它仍然有巨大的感染力。
And then, even if there are technologies, I think that it is true that with new communication technologies, there is a sort of use of the cinema that is idealistic. So just a person can receive it, but the cinema is a place, a mass place, where communication is done with a strong power. For example, 500 people, it is even powerful. Even more powerful than before.
I want to add that it's true, but and I think that today more and more people have to be engaged. The society needs engagement, and engagement means taking risk and taking responsibility. And this section is really important for that, because it's a place for experimentation, and it's a place where people can risk, as Stuart said, and everybody can look at it. But at the same time, it's a possibility for the young cinema to grow and to arrive, to emerge. And it's really important because the industry is so strong, and the market is so strong, that we have to find a place. And this section, Orizzonti, is really the place to show the emergent talents.
I come from a country where cinema had started more than 100 years ago, but maybe Egypt, but now maybe Egypt and the whole region is going through a turning point. And I think there is a deconstruction of the whole system, including the cinematic system and the cinema industry, and maybe this is a new opening for new genres, for young people to start really emerging and expressing themselves. And this is why I think this section of Orizzonti gives a lot of hope for the future, for the young generation, to find a place in that big industry, in that big world, because it's an industry, and we cannot just decide to work in small groups, and now the image has become instant, you take an image anywhere in the world and it's instant everywhere in the world. So it has an enormous impact, and I think we should make use of that.
Ma rispetto all'Italia volevo dire che appunto
about Italy, I would like to say that in a country like Italy, where the cinema must always be controlled and led and closed in some environments. The Orizzonti section is very interesting for this too, because it is something that is not Italian, it is completely open to different genres and to different looks. And this is why I like this sort of anarchy and not catalogation of sections, and this is something new.
I have the impression, listening to you, and once again, please raise your hand and don't hesitate to question. Oh, thank you, Eugenia.
Make your questions difficult because you're a jury, so we cannot really speak about the film we saw, but maybe we could try to say something about what is now the most important thing that you see in a film. Is a political subject? Is the form? Is the I don't know? Is the story of the production of the film? The country the film comes from? And I know everything is linked, of course. The form, the film, the political subject. But is there something that you feel that now is more important and it touches you, especially when you see a movie?
我们刚刚开始工作，还没有一起来沟通。但是对我个人来说，我觉得我看电影，首先要在感情的层面来，毫无包袱的去全身心的去接受电影传达给我的情感。我觉得一部电影如果它能在人性的层面提供新的观察、新的观点，同时这是一方面，再一方面它必须提供给电影发展新的一种启发。我觉得如果有这两点，这将是一个我很喜欢的电影。
Well, I think that in these days we worked watching at films, and we had not enough time to speak, to discuss. Well, I speak for myself, but I watch films without difficulties, because I record all the emotions in order to understand if there are human and new points of view. And in some way also to give inspiration to a new cinema language.
因为我来自中国，我一直忘不了电影。它一方面是我们表达个人情感的一种方法，另一方面，电影伴随着人类100多年，它一直在某些国家、某些地区、某些历史阶段，它一直是一种抗争的方法。我也非常看重电影里面渗透出来的作者的勇气。
And I come from China, and this for sure, the film, this is why the film represents how the film is linked with the country, and I pay attention to the films that are against a system, because we have to encourage this kind of films.
这种抗争应该是建立在美学层面的。
And obviously, it must be something done with braveness, but also with aesthetics.
At this point, I think it's very obvious that technology and the front lines of political change are indistinguishable. Technology is fueling those changes very much. So anytime I think you see a film that can take a formal language that's in tune with both political changes and shifts and new technologies, I think it's incredibly exciting. There are so many new stories to tell right now, and yet so often we see cinema that's telling the same story in the same way. So anytime you see a filmmaker that breaks through that and can figure out a new visual language and a new formal language that can somehow parallel and express all the incredible transformations we're going through right now. It's incredibly exciting.
So. Well, I think that I would tend to agree with everyone here and say that forms could be extremely different. Languages are very, very different, but we always go back to the same strength or the same idea that we want to see in a film, which is emotion. I mean, how to trigger emotion. I mean, some people use it very differently, do it very differently. They can trigger in different forms, and I think this is what I'm looking for in any film I'm watching.
Everybody says a lot, so the question, I was not thinking answering, but no, I react to what Jia said about the place, because it's my job. So it's true that cinema is an art, and it's a popular art in terms of the art, because it has to be shown to many people being in the same room at the same time. So everybody is watching the film at the same time in a room. That means that it has to say something to these people, and it has to be but sometimes these movies could be seen from on TV, on internet, etc. So we have the deal or the goal now for the director, for the industry, is to be able to deal with at the same time this very mass art for big audience, and at the same time to be able to be seen just in a telephone. That means that the experimentation is not the same, the message is not the same, and at the same time, the format couldn't be the same. And experimentation means that and now we will go to the interactive movie, and I like to see what it happens now.
Sostituisco Marie-Pierre.
I'm at the place
una
of
domanda
Marie-Pierre.
che ovviamente se avete domande voi, if you have questions, welcome. A question to the jury, to the members of the jury. I would like to ask them if they find the time during this job of viewing the movies for Orizzonti, they have time to see the movies of the official competition, and also if they've been to Biennale Arte and if they found some coincidences or some crosses between the movies which they are seeing now and the video installation in Biennale.
Unfortunately, we have not had a lot of time to see films in the main jury. We went to the opening screening of the George Clooney film, but we really have a very packed schedule, so we're not going to have time to see a lot, unfortunately. And in terms of the Biennale, I saw it in June for the opening, but it's interesting if you look at the Omar Fast installation, for instance. I think maybe that's the most cinematic of a lot of the videos in the Biennale, but so far there aren't that many parallels, actually, I don't think. But it is interesting. I think we're going to start to see a lot more films by people conventionally in the visual art world throughout the next week. So I think maybe those parallels may become more apparent.
Thank you.
No, as Stuart said, we did not have a chance to see the films, but I'm not worried because most of the films that are in the selection we could see in the market anywhere in the world after that. But I think me personally, I'm concentrating on the Orizzonti section because these films, we might not see them anywhere, after the festival. I mean, it's an extreme privilege to be able to see those films.
Thank you.
It's the same film.
Io i primi giorni sono riuscito a vedere altri film
during the first days I was able to see other films because we had a lighter program, and for the films that the film of Kosakowski can communicate with our section. It was the first film I watched here, and it was a good starting point. We will have a little time the last day to see the Biennale, because to see the Biennale, we need a lot of time.
Mr. Jia Zhang-Ke would like to add something.
我也是没有时间去那边看艺术展，因为一个是地平线单元，我们要看56部电影，看片量非常大，然后每天差不多平均要看4个长片的这个篇幅，而且特别是我觉得这个工作是一个非常需要专心、有某种责任的工作，所以我不敢有丝毫的懈怠，不敢偷跑去那边看艺术展。然后希望最后一天，因为我们日程一直安排到最后一天，希望最后一天上午能去看一看。
Me too, I didn't have enough time because we have 56 films per day and 4 feature films per day, so we will have a great attention and responsibility for this work, so I cannot be distracted by other things. Maybe the last day I will be there in the morning.
C'è ancora una domanda, qualche domanda da parte vostra? C'è ancora tempo?
Is there some other questions?
Thank you.
我想问贾导一个问题，今天有这么多中国的记者，所以请贾导回答一个有关中国电影的问题，就是这个您从一个这个国际电影节的一个单元的评委主席角度来看，这个中国电影的发展目前的现状和在这个国际电影发展的现状，我们中国处在一个什么样的一个时代或者是水平阶段？另外，比如说这个《让子弹飞》，我们都知道在国内有很大的成绩。但是如果是从一个国际电影人的角度来看这个电影的话，您怎么会评价这部电影呢？谢谢。
Io sono qui come giornalista cinese, quindi mi viene da fare al Presidente una domanda, visto che ci siamo in tanti, che è il suo sguardo a lei, Presidente, sul sviluppo del mercato cinese rispetto al mercato del cinema mondiale, sia per quanto riguarda l'epoca in cui si trova o piuttosto verso la qualità. Anche Jan Zidane, il film, può dare qualche tipo di impressione su questo film?
我想我们可以有很多的时间在下面来专门讨论具体的中国电影。
Penso che magari specificamente sul film cinese possiamo parlare sotto un'altra sede.
但是我觉得从这几年的发展来看，我觉得中国电影始终应该记住我们也应该是世界电影的一部分，应该有能力跟有信心让中国电影成为世界电影其中的一部分吧，而不是因为中国现在有一个比较发展的市场，然后就不愿意或者说没有这种雄心去跟世界接触，让中国人的情感、中国人的故事被全世界分享。我觉得这是一个很遗憾的事情。
Penso che in questi ultimi anni noi abbiamo dimostrato di essere un cinema, di avere un cinema che debba essere parte del mondo, che dobbiamo avere una capacità di meritarcelo e anche di aver fiducia in questo, non perché abbiamo un mercato piuttosto sviluppato, allora dobbiamo avere la volontà di una certa chiusura, invece condividere il nostro tesoro con il resto del mondo è un nostro impegno storico.
我觉得最大的一个观感可能就是如果在国际电影节，特别在威尼斯、在地平线看很多电影之后，你会有一种很大的忧虑，也就是说，中国电影有一个很大的问题是，反观我们的电影有一点问题，就是在于它缺少当代性，因为电影的方法、语言，还有对人的看法、对历史的看法那种观念，可能有一些跟国际的发展、跟人类的这个认识世界的这个发展有一点脱节。那这一点怎么让中国电影真正成为世界电影的一部分，同时也应该让中国电影成为当代电影的一部分。
Ecco, penso che guardando i film nei festival internazionali una cosa mi coglie del cinema cinese, colgo del cinema cinese, che è una preoccupazione, o forse potrebbe essere un problema piuttosto grande, perché è poco contemporaneo, sia dalle tematiche che nel modo di raccontare rispetto a altri film che si vedono fatti nello stesso periodo nel mondo, perché non c'è proprio un punto di... non c'è diciamo, uno sguardo verso l'uomo contemporaneo e verso il nostro sviluppo storico, a differenza di quanto il cinema potrebbe offrire all'evoluzione umana e allo sviluppo civile. Questo penso che la Cina dovrebbe diventare con il suo cinema parte del cinema contemporaneo, parte del cinema mondiale.
Hello, I'm Paula Wang from Hong Kong Cable TV, and the question to President Jia. 我想请问，就是现在其实世界很多地方都会起 cinema， 然后刚才您也说到这个 cinema 的重要性。可是现在，比如说在内地，可能同一时间只会在戏院，可能很多时候只会放一部指定的电影。那小导演对这方面怎样的看法？谢谢。
Io vengo da Hong Kong, ecco, spesso si parla di cinema in ogni parte del mondo, però nella Cina mainland continentale in certi posti si vedono solo certi film indicati. Cosa ne pensa lei?
我刚才已经说了，我觉得电影它这100多年历史里面，它一直有它帮助我们去抗争某些东西。就是目前，比如说我们整个的在中国，比如说电影院的这种垄断也好，或者说商业电影的垄断也好，它也需要我们电影工作者去抗争。首先你要坚持我们能拍出这样的电影，然后不停地产生这样的独立电影，才是一个最大的一个抗争吧，我觉得。
Come dicevo prima, no? Negli ultimi 100 anni si sono fatti tanti nel mondo, molti colleghi hanno resistito per ottenere qualcosa, come anche in Cina, contro un certo cinema di monopolio, anche commerciale, si è fatto un bel po' di resistenza. Ecco, importante in Cina, dal mio punto di vista, resistere per poter produrre film indipendenti, per avere il diritto di esistenza.
Hi, I'm from Hong Kong. My name is Eunice, TVB, and the question is for all the judges, but I'm going to ask in Mandarin. 就是说，这个电影像这个单元有50几部电影入围了，可是那么多的新的一些这电影人，他们是怎样可以有一个出路，可以让他们就踏入一个更好的一个电影的事业？ 就竞争很大的那个感觉，是不是？
C'è molta concorrenza per i cineasti giovani, perché sono una cinquantina in una stessa sezione. Tutti questi come possono sopravvivere, come possono avere occasioni? È una domanda per tutti, se possibile.
A question for everybody is possible.
If I can, okay. I think this is not only in cinema, it's everywhere. In every field, young people have problems to emerge. And thanks to this section, it could be for some of them. But you know, if for that you have to be, as I said before, engaged, to have something to see, to demonstrate, to say, and to be very talented. And this is, but it's the same for everybody. That means that and it's always a long way. It's never like that. It's always a long way for all the young everywhere. But, and this is why they have to believe that it's possible. And at the same time, they have to have something in their own.
Yes, I also think it's very hard for very young, emerging talent to start this career because there's a lot of competition. But me as a producer, for example, I dedicated myself now to emerging Egyptian filmmakers by creating a project where they can develop also their project, because maybe they have talents, but they can't develop the projects properly, because you need to develop and you need to be part of this big international village, which is cinema. You can't just work independently. So I think at each step or each phase of the production of the film, you must be involved in a collective. And this is what we're doing now in Egypt.
I think if recent political events haven't made this clear enough, it should be fairly obvious that if a younger generation is not provided its own voice, it will find a way to make itself heard. And I think with, again, many of the films we've seen so far, in fact, quite frequently show young adolescent kids working with technological tools, whether it's iPhones or the internet or whatever. And I think, I mean, given all the recent really radical changes that are going on throughout the world, I think it's very clear that the new generation is finding new ways to use moving images, to use technology, and they're making their voice heard. And so if the market shuts them out, they'll create new markets.
Mr. Jia Zhang-Ke would like to add the last word, since we have to close.
我觉得地平线本身提供了一个观点，因为在我们地平线的节目里面有短片、有中片、有长片、有纪录片、有实验电影、有剧情片，也就是说，它是一个非常丰富的多种类型的选择。如果我想每个年轻导演，他们可以从自己最容易开始的这个起步来开始他们的工作，而不一定要一开始就进入到一个工业系统里面去屈服于整个大的工业。我觉得这个单元就是鼓励自由、鼓励原创、鼓励独立的。
Quindi penso che la stessa formazione della sezione Orizzonti porti un punto di vista a questa questione, perché nella sezione Orizzonti ci sono corti, medi, lunghi, sperimentali, anche drammi, e questa grande scelta sì è una grande concorrenza, ma anche dimostrazione di come si può cominciare da un punto che per sé è più facile per i giovani, no? E non è detto che bisogna subito inchinarsi alle logiche del mercato, al sistema commerciale, perché comunque qui noi vi diamo un inno alla libertà, all'autoralità e all'indipendenza.
Grazie, purtroppo dobbiamo chiudere. We have to close. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to the members of the jury. And good work to the jury.
Thank you.